So let's keep moving down the balance sheet here. We've talked about sales and receivables, a little bit about expenses, and specifically we talked about cost of goods sold. Well, cost of goods sold is going to come out of our overall discussion and issues around inventory. So let's get into inventory. And cost of goods sold, COGS. So the first thing we've got to learn about inventory is cost accumulation. Because we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions before we can answer this cost accumulation. So a couple of questions we've got to ask ourselves is, what are we selling? And what are the costs that I'm selling? And when am I selling it? When am I selling these costs, right? So it's the thing that we're selling, what are the costs associated with this thing that we're selling, and when am I going to sell this thing that I'm selling? And so if the answer is whatever the product is, and there are costs associated with that, and we're going to sell that at a time after I've already committed to paying for those costs, then we can start thinking about that we probably have inventory. We probably have some costs that we can put on our balance sheet that we will later on sell to someone else. And basically we can view inventory as a prepaid, right? We are prepaying for these costs, and eventually we will sell those costs. We'll sell the thing that has those costs at some time in the future. So this is really, and again, this is just my simple way of looking at it, this is really a prepaid cost. And I'm going to get benefit for this prepaid cost when I sell the inventory. I receive a benefit, right? And that benefit should be the difference between what I sell it for versus what was the prepaid cost. So we've got to start thinking about, well, what are the costs that get accumulated into this prepaid? So let's see if we can get our hands around that. All right. So let's throw out an example. Say we are a wholesaler. Yeah, let's, you know what, I'm going to change. Yeah, let's say, say we're a wholesaler. I'm fine with that. So a wholesaler is going to buy from the importer, right? They're going to import goods, or they're going to buy right from a original equipment manufacturer, or original product manufacturer. They're going to buy something, right? So the wholesaler is going to purchase goods from an importer, or some original goods manufacturer. We're going to purchase those goods and we're going to pay for those goods, right? Or we're going to promise to pay for those goods. But once we have the insurable risk, we have those goods. And what we're going to do with these goods is we're going to put our own label on them, right? We're going to relabel them. So here are the things we're going to do after we get the goods. These are the things we're going to do. We're going to put our proprietary label on. Put on a label. Maybe put it in a package. And we're going to store it. Right? And there are costs associated with each one of these. So there are costs for the label and labor. And potentially, if this is going through a machine, also potentially machine costs. Right? We're going to put it in packaging. We have the packaging. Probably have some labor. And also some machine costs. Right? Store it. Well, we just have facilities costs. Right. Now, what costs should we put into inventory? Well, clearly, the purchase price of the goods from the importer or the original goods manufacturer or original equipment manufacturer, whatever you want to call it, that purchase, what we bought it for, should absolutely go into inventory. So let's start accumulating costs. Right? So the purchase of the goods absolutely goes into the inventory. Okay. Let's see, we put a label on it. Well, what do you think about this? Label, yikes. Label, labor, and machine costs to put the label on. I'm going to say we can probably put some of those costs on there. Clearly the label. Maybe some of the labor. And some of the machine costs. Right? We're going to have to figure out how much of machine costs should go into that label. Don't know yet, right? But we can at least make an argument that the label, and labor, keep messing those up, the label and labor, and maybe some of the machine costs should absolutely go into the accumulated cost of the inventory. How about the packaging? Well, I think so. So I think your packaging, your labor, and the machine costs should also go into the inventory because I'm getting it ready to sell. And the retail customers that are buying this from me, or the eventual retailers who are going to buy this from me, or even direct to consumer, they're expecting the label, they're expecting the packaging, they're expecting all of these things, right? They're expecting everything. They're expecting the nice little bow on the package. How about storing it? Is that making any change to the goods? And the answer for that is no. So these facilities costs, no, those are not going to go in. But everything else, I can make the argument should go into inventory. So we're going to add all this up, and these are my inventory costs. So that's a wholesaler. Well, let's think about cost accumulation. If we, and again, if we were a retailer and we're buying from the wholesaler, the purchased goods, and then any other things we put into it. If we put anything that is enhancing the product, making the product more saleable, etc., you could argue that those inventory costs, those costs should go into inventory. Some would also argue that this could just be expensed. Right? It's a judgment call. But I can make an argument that these things are enhancing this product and getting it ready for sale.